Have you ever lost points on an English test just because you use the word less instead of fewer?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or, maybe you stared at one of those fill-in-the-blank questions knowing perfectly well what the sentence meant, but the exact word they wanted just felt, I don't know, like nitpicking.
Like they're just being overly pedantic.
Exactly. It can be incredibly frustrating. It feels like the people who design these exams are just trying to trip you up with arbitrary rules. But what if I told you that mastering these tiny grammatical distinctions isn't just about passing a test? What if it's actually, the secret to completely controlling how people perceive your clarity and your authority?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly the shift in perspective we really need to make today. We often think of language as this art form, something fluid, subjective, open to interpretation.
Right, which is great for poetry.
Exactly. It's wonderful for poetry.
Yeah.
But when you step into the world of standardized testing or even professional communication, that fluid artistic lens completely shatters. We have to start looking at language as engineering.
I love that. Language is engineering. And that really brings us to our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're taking you through a highly intensive but completely manageable study session.
We really are.
We are going to decode Section 1, that's the English language portion of the IBPS CRP POMT 2026 Model Paper 03. We have 30 questions to cover, but we aren't just going to read you a boring list of answers.
No, definitely not.
We're going to deconstruct the actual linguistic mechanisms this test uses to evaluate you. We're going to look under the hood so that the next time you face one of these papers, you aren't guessing. You are engineering the correct answer.
Precisely. We're going to completely neutralize the ambiguity. We'll examine the core grammatical and verbal concepts the examiners are testing and give you a rigorous logical framework for every single type of question they throw at you.
So you're ready for anything.
Exactly. Our goal is to replace your test anxiety with absolute mechanical certainty.
I'm so ready for this. So let's start with the macro level, right? Reading comprehension. The first section of the exam gives you a dense passage about India's renewable energy sector and then just hits you with a barrage of questions.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and I know from my own experience, the biggest trap here is bringing your own outside knowledge into the test. If you, read the news, you might think you know the answer before you even check the text.
And that is exactly what the test designers are hoping you will do. Let's look at question 1. It asks where India committed to 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity.
Right.
This evaluates a skill called direct factual retrieval. The cognitive trap here is assumption. Your brain wants to rely on memory to save time, but you have to resist that.
So it's like acting as an auditor cross-referencing a corporate ledger.
That is a perfect analogy.
Like, as an auditor, you don't care what the CEO said in a press conference yesterday. You only care about the physical receipts right in front of you.
Yes, you are auditing the text. So for question 1, the text explicitly states the commitment happened at the COP26 summit. That makes option D definitively correct.
Because it's right there on the page.
Exactly. And it's the same mechanic for question 2, which asks why solar power has become cheaper. This evaluates causal identification.
Okay, causal identification, so looking for the cause.
Right. And the text explicitly attributes solar's price advantage to falling equipment costs, not taxes, not labor. So option D is the correct choice. If it isn't printed in the text, it just does not exist in the universe of the test.
Okay, but what about when the test asks for inferences? Like, question 3 asks why power grids need storage and flexible backup.
Right, this is a great one.
Yeah, and the answer hinges on the idea that solar and wind supply is intermittent. But the text itself just says these sources vanish at night or when winds drop. It never actually uses the word intermittent.
This is where we shift from factual retrieval to contextual vocabulary interpretation. The exam is testing your ability to map a behavioral description onto a technical definition.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the behavior described is stopping and starting vanishing and reappearing. The exact scientific term for that behavior is intermittent. So option C, intermittent, is the only logically sound choice.
That makes total sense. It's testing if you truly understand the concept. And moving to question 4, it asks about the burden on distribution companies.
Right, and here we are back to detail extraction. The passage states that distribution companies struggle with debt, which delays payments to generators. So option D is unequivocally the right answer.
Okay, then we hit question 5, which is a true-false evaluation. It asks which statement is true according to the passage.
For this, you apply an eliminative evaluative framework. You basically disprove options one by one using the text. When you do that, you find that option E, land for large projects is difficult to acquire, is the only statement validated by the text.
So it's a process of elimination. Then we get to the vocabulary-specific questions, questions 6 to 8. Question 6 asks for a synonym for intermittent.
We just define this behavior as stopping and starting, right? So the structural synonym is option B, irregular.
Right. And question 7 asks for a synonym for bolster, as in bolster energy security.
Contextually, the passage is talking about improving security. To bolster literally means to prop up or reinforce.
So looking at the options weaken, measure, replace, strengthen, delay.
Exactly. The only functional match is option D, strengthen.
Got it. And then question 8 asks for the structural opposite, the antonym of the word vanish. The context is solar power vanishing at night. The options are fade, escape, dissolve, retreat, or appear.
This is a classic trap. Cognitive fatigue makes test takers miss the bolded word opposite.
Oh yeah, they just look for a synonym out of habit.
Right. Fade, dissolve, and retreat all lean conceptually toward disappearing. The precise structural opposite is option E, appear. It really requires you to maintain absolute focus on the parameters of the question.
Wow. Okay. So we've seen how to extract macro meaning from a whole passage, but what happens when we zoom in? The next part of the test is a Cloze test.
Yes, questions 9 through 13.
Basically a paragraph about single-use plastics where several words have been deleted and you have to fill in the blanks.
Moving from reading comprehension to a Cloze test is sort of like shifting from observing a completed building to being handed a trowel and being told to lay the bricks yourself.
That sounds intimidating.
It requires a completely different cognitive skill, a deep awareness of syntactic constraints and collocations.
Collocations. Let's look at question 9 to explain that. The sentence reads, single-use plastic items blank a serious threat to the environment. The options are solve, remove, pose, deny, or praise.
Right.
Now, to a native speaker, pose a threat just sounds correct. But why couldn't a word like solve work? People solve problems all the time.
It's a fascinating linguistic mechanism. Collocations are words that naturally and conventionally cluster together. But beyond just sounding right, there is a strict semantic logic here. You can solve a problem, yes, but a threat is a source of impending danger. If you say someone solves a threat, you're creating a semantic contradiction. Solving implies neutralizing, which completely reverses the intended meaning of the sentence that plastic is dangerous.
Oh, wow. So you neutralize a threat or you pose a threat.
Exactly. In this list, option C, pose, is the only verb that respects both the grammar and the reality of the danger.
That makes perfect sense, like question 10, the next blank. The plastics pose the threat because they take centuries to decompose, multiply, evaporate, shine, or harden.
Right. This evaluates contextual vocabulary for environmental waste. Solid physical waste breaks down naturally over centuries. The scientific term is decompose.
Because evaporate is for liquids?
Exactly, and multiply makes no physical sense for dead plastic. It's logical elimination leading directly to option A, decompose.
Okay, then question 11. The paragraph says India has blank several such items, imported, celebrated, purchased, banned, or designed.
This tests your understanding of the logical flow of government action. If the previous sentence established that plastic poses a serious threat, the only logical action for a governing body is restriction. So option D, banned, fits perfectly.
And because they are banned, shopkeepers now offer cloth bags as an... This is question 12. Obstacle, alternative, ornament, expense, or apology.
This is contextual substitution. A cloth bag substitutes a plastic one. Therefore, option B, alternative, is definitively correct.
Finally, question 13. It says the campaign will succeed only if consumers blank their daily habits. Defend, repeat, ignore, change, or admire.
This is an exercise in conditional logic. For a campaign against a threat to succeed, the detrimental behaviors causing the threat must be altered. Therefore, option D, change, is the only verb that satisfies the conditional requirement.
It really is like solving a math equation with words.
It really is.
Which brings us to a part of the test that I know terrifies a lot of people, pair jumbles. That's questions 14 through 17.
Yes.
They give you 5 sentences labeled A through E, completely scrambled, and you have to reconstruct the paragraph. It's about city parks. How do you even begin to reconstruct a scrambled thought without just randomly guessing?
You have to approach it like a detective analyzing a crime scene. You establish a robust, evaluative framework. Step 1 is always finding the independent theme.
Meaning the sentence that doesn't rely on anything else to make sense.
Exactly. You are looking for the thesis statement. If a sentence starts with words like therefore, despite this, or pronouns like they, it cannot be the opening thought because those words point backward to information we haven't seen yet.
So looking at our options, sentence B says, city parks do far more than beautify a neighborhood. That stands completely on its own.
Yes, that is our independent theme. It introduces the core topic. Once we have the start, we trace the logical trajectory. If they do far more than beautify, the immediate next question the reader has is, like what?
And sentence D answers that by giving the physical benefits. They cool the air and absorb rainwater during heavy showers. And it starts with the pronoun they, which links directly back to the city parks in sentence B.
Precisely. Now we have B, then D. Next, we look for additive bridges. Sentence A says, regular visitors also report lower stress and better health.
Ah, the word also.
Exactly. Also is a massive signpost. It signals that we are adding another benefit to the physical ones we just listed. So A follows D.
That makes our sequence B, D, A. We've listed all the great things parks do. But then we have sentence E, which says, despite this, many cities allot very little space to parks.
Despite this is a contrast indicator. It creates friction. It takes all the positive data from B, D, and A and juxtaposes it with a negative reality.
Which leaves only sentence C for the conclusion, planners must therefore protect green cover in city budgets.
And notice the word therefore. It's a conclusive indicator offering a solution to the problem presented in the previous sentence. So the rigorous, unshakable sequence is B, D, A, E, C.
Wow. It's amazing how obvious it seems once you realize you're just looking for road signs.
Exactly.
So for the actual test questions, question 14 asks for the first sentence, which is option B. Question 15 asks for the third sentence, which is option A. Question 16 asks for the last sentence, which is option C. And question 17 asks what follows sentence D, which is option A.
You've got it perfectly.
That's so satisfying. But I guess a perfectly sequenced paragraph is useless if the foundational sentence mechanics are flawed.
That is very true.
Which takes us to the error spotting segment, questions 18 through 22. This is where we really zoom in on the microscopic structural errors. Let's look at question 18. He has been working in this bank since 5 years with great sincerity.
Right.
My ear immediately catches since 5 years, but why is it mathematically wrong?
This deals with prepositions of time, specifically the difference between since and for. Think of since as a heavy anchor dropped at a very specific point in the past, like since 2021 or since Tuesday. It marks the start.
Okay, and for?
Think of for as a measuring tape. It measures the duration of time that has passed. 5 years is a duration, a length of time. Therefore, the rigorously correct preposition to use with a measuring tape of time is for. It must be for 5 years. So option C contains the error.
The anchor versus the measuring tape. I am definitely stealing that. Okay, question 19. There are less candidates this year than there were in the previous year.
A classic.
Now, I have to push back here. People say less candidates all the time in casual conversation. At the grocery store, the sign says 10 items or less. Why is this exam so obsessed with making it fewer candidates?
It's a totally fair point, and casual language definitely blurs this line. But standardized grammar relies on the cognitive difference between countable and uncountable quantifiers. Imagine looking at a glass of water.
Okay.
You can't easily count the individual water molecules, right? It's a bulk mass. For bulk, uncountable things, water, sand, time, anxiety, we used less.
But candidates are individual human beings.
Exactly. You can count 1 candidate, 2 candidates, 3 candidates. They are distinct units. Whenever you are dealing with distinct countable units, the rule dictates you must use fewer. Fewer candidates, fewer cars, fewer apples.
So option A is the error because it should be fewer candidates.
Yes. And the grocery store sign, grammatically speaking, should absolutely say 10 items or fewer.
I'm going to be that annoying person mentally correcting those signs now.
It happens to all of us.
Let's look at question 20. Mumbai is one of the busiest cities of our country in every season.
This tests noun number following fractional expressions. The structural absolute here is the phrase, one of though. Logically, you can only single one out of a larger group of multiple things.
Right, you can't be one of a single thing.
Exactly. Therefore, the noun following one of the must universally be plural. It has to be one of the busiest cities. So the error is in option B.
It's pure logic. Which brings us to question 21, and I think this one is a deliberate trap. The principal, along with the teachers, was present at the function.
Very tricky.
Now wait, principal plus teachers equals multiple people, right? So why isn't the verb plural? Why isn't it were present?
It is absolutely a trap. It's evaluating subject-verb agreement with prepositional phrases. The phrase, along with the teachers, is prepositional. It acts as extra parenthetical information. It does not create a compound subject the way the conjunction and does.
So if it said the principal and the teachers, it would be plural.
Yes, then it would be were. But because it says along with, the true grammatical subject remains strictly singular, the principal.
Ah.
Everything between the commas is just decorative detail. Therefore, the singular verb was is perfectly correct. The correct answer for this question is option E, no error.
That is so sneaky. They just want you to see the plural word teachers right next to the verb and panic.
Exactly. It's a test of visual discipline.
Okay, question 22 is another tricky one. She is confident of winning the election because she has worked hardly for it. The error is clearly option D, worked hardly. But why?
This test adverbial forms. It is purely a question of mechanics.
It's sort of like turning a valve to increase pressure, but the word you chose actually releases all the pressure. You wanted to say she worked with intense effort, which is hard.
Right.
But by using hardly, you've employed an adverb that means scarcely or barely. You completely reversed the mechanism of her effort. She didn't barely work. She worked with great effort.
That's a brilliant way to look at it. You accidentally installed the wrong valve in the sentence. Which leads us perfectly into the next segment, phrase replacement and fillers, questions 23 through 28. Because identifying the broken valve is only half the battle.
Knowing exactly how to replace it is what separates good candidates from great ones.
Exactly.
Question 23 asks us to replace the incorrect phrase in this sentence. No sooner did the bell ring when the students rushed out.
This evaluates correlative conjunctions.
Right.
In English grammar, certain words are practically married to each other structurally. No sooner is a structural absolute that mandates a pairing with the word than. No sooner than. It never pairs with when. The word when is historically married to words like scarcely or hardly. So replacing it with did the bell ring then, which is option A, is the only valid solution.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Question 24, I'm looking forward to meet you next week. The exam says to meet is wrong, and the correct replacement is option E, to meeting. I know looking forward to meeting sounds weird and clunky to a lot of English learners.
It is one of the most common stumbling blocks. The reason it confuses people is that they are confusing an infinitive marker with a preposition. Usually we see to as part of a verb to run, to jump, to meet.
Right, the infinitive.
Exactly. But in the specific idiomatic phrase looking forward to, the word to functions entirely as a preposition, just like in, on, or about.
Oh.
And the rigid rule of English grammar is that prepositions must be followed by a noun, a pronoun, or a gerund, which is the ing form of a verb acting as a noun.
Ah. So you wouldn't say, I am interested in meet you. You'd say, I am interested in meeting you.
Precisely. Because in is a preposition. So, I am looking forward to meeting you follows the exact same mechanical rule.
That completely clears it up. It's not an exception. It's just following a different rule. Let's look at question 25. She prefers coffee more than tea.
This evaluates verbs of preference. The verb prefer inherently contains a comparative sense within its own definition.
So you don't need more than.
Right. Adding more than is mathematically redundant, like saying revert back. The grammatical convention is that prefer takes the preposition to. So she prefers coffee to tea, which is option C.
Then we have some dual filler questions. Question 26. The scheme was blank to help small farmers, but poor publicity kept many of them blank of it.
For double blanks, you need a dual contextual fit that balances cause and effect. A scheme is typically launched. That's the cause.
Okay.
If there's poor publicity, what is the logical effect on the farmers? They remain unaware. So the pair launched, and unaware locks in perfectly.
And unaware pairs with of, which is right after the blank.
Exactly. So option B is perfectly validated.
Question 27. Heavy rain blank traffic in the city, and offices allowed employees to work blank home.
Heavy rain logically disrupts traffic. It does not ease or improve it. And the fixed universal idiom in the modern workplace is to work from home. So option D, disrupted and from, is the rigorously correct choice.
Beautiful. Question 28. The report blank that pollution levels blank alarmingly during winter.
A report typically warns about alarming data. And what do levels of pollution do? They rise.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually.
And crucially, this checks your subject-verb agreement again. Levels is a plural noun, so it takes the plural verb rise without an s on the end. So it's option E, warns and rise.
Incredible work. We are now in the home stretch, just 2 questions left.
The final sprint.
The final two questions focus on spelling and idioms, the absolute microelements of the language. Question 29 asks for the correct spelling of the word occasion, and they give you every possible variation of double C's, double S's, single S's.
Orthography, or spelling, is notoriously frustrating in English, but it relies on strict historical rules. For occasion, the core rule to memorize is that it contains a double C but a single S, occasion, which makes option A definitively correct.
And finally, question 30. Choose the correct meaning of the idiom to turn a deaf ear. The options are to listen carefully, to ignore what is said, to speak loudly, to become angry, or to lose hearing.
Idioms evaluate your ability to prioritize figurative language over literal interpretation. To turn a deaf ear has absolutely no literal connection to medical hearing loss.
Right, it's behavioral.
Exactly, it's a behavioral metaphor. It means to deliberately and consciously ignore what is being communicated to you. So option B, to ignore what is said, is the exact translation of the idiom.
And there it is. You have successfully navigated the concepts behind all 30 questions of the English section. If you've been following along, congratulations.
It's a huge accomplishment.
It really is. Mastering these frameworks, whether it's understanding the anchor, the measuring tape for prepositions of time, or logically sequencing a complex thought with signposts, it really is about rewiring your brain for absolute clarity. You aren't just guessing anymore.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, consider how the rules we evaluated today aren't just arbitrary academic hurdles meant to torture test takers.
Yeah.
They are the actual mechanics of persuasion. They are the tools of clarity.
So what does this all mean for you moving forward?
This raises an important question for you to ponder long after this deep dive is over. How might your daily communications change if you applied this level of rigorous grammatical logic to your own emails, your own arguments, and your own conversations?
Oh, that's a great question.
When you speak, do people hear a scrambled paragraph, or do they hear a perfectly engineered, logically sequenced thought?
That is powerful stuff. Next time you write, remember, it's not just an art. You're an engineer looking at an X-ray, making sure every bone, every joint, and every preposition is exactly where it belongs. Keep auditing those sentences, keep practicing, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
So picture this. If an item is on sale at a store for like 20% off, and then the cashier tells you they're applying an extra 10% discount at the register, you just got a 30% discount.
I mean, it totally feels like common sense. 20 plus 10 is 30.
But it's wrong. And, you know, if you rely on that kind of everyday intuition during a high-stakes exam, it is absolutely going to tank your score.
Exactly, because human intuition is notoriously bad at dealing with compound math and, well, statistical probability in general. We're wired to take the path of least resistance.
Right.
But standardized tests, they are explicitly designed to lay traps along that exact path.
Which perfectly brings us to our mission for you today. Welcome to a very special, highly focused deep dive. We are tackling Section 2, the Quantitative Aptitude section of the IBPS CRP POMT 2026 Preliminary Examination Model, Paper 03.
That is quite a mouthful.
It is. But specifically, we are walking you through questions 31 to 65 sequentially. We're not skipping a single scenario, and we are not going to let you fall into any of those intuitive traps.
And we're going to do this calmly. I know standardized tests, especially for banking probationary officers, they can feel incredibly overwhelming.
Oh, definitely.
The clock is ticking, the numbers just blur together. But consider this deep dive your safe, encouraging space. We're going to break down the mechanics behind the math, step by step, so you actually understand why things work, not just what the answers are.
Yes, deep breaths. We're going to treat these 35 questions like an unfolding story. We'll start by interpreting broad data trends, then navigate the hidden mechanics of algebra, decode some number patterns, and finally, apply pure arithmetic to the real world.
It really is a journey of logic. So let's just start with the big picture, which is data interpretation.
Right. Our first scenario, and it covers the first 5 questions, so 31 through 35, presents a line graph. It shows laptop sales measured in hundreds from January to June.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah. The first hurdle, question 31, asks for the percentage increase in laptops sold from February, which sits at 3,000, to April, which climbed to 3,600.
You know, the word percentage instantly makes people tense up. But let's just strip away the anxiety here. What is actually happening?
Sales went from 30 to 36.
Exactly. That is an absolute physical increase of 6 units. To find a percentage increase, you take that raw growth, the 6, and you just divide it by where you started.
Okay, so our starting line in February was 30. That means we just need to figure out 6 divided by 30.
Precisely. And 6 goes into 30 exactly 5 times, so the fraction is 1/5. If you visualize a pie cut into 5 pieces, one of those pieces represents 20%.
Oh, nice.
So the increase is simply 20%. No complicated cross-multiplication needed.
I love how breaking it down to a visual fraction just completely diffuses the stress. All right, question 32 in this data set asks for the average number of laptops sold per month over the entire 6-month period.
Let's hear the numbers.
The monthly numbers are 24, 30, 27, 36, 45, and 54. Honestly, my instinct is to frantically scribble these down and start carrying the ones.
And if you do that, you're burning precious time. When you're adding a string of numbers like this, look for natural pairs that round out nicely.
Like what?
Well, for instance, the 24 in January and the 36 in April, they add up to a clean 60.
Oh, that is smart. Okay, then the 45 and 50, well, 40, 50 is 95 and 4 is 9, so that's 99. Add the 27 and 30, and eventually we get to a total of 216.
Exactly. And an average is just the total divided by the number of data points. So 216 divided by 6 months. Think about your multiplication tables here.
Okay, 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 30 is 180. So 180 plus 36 is 216. The average is 36.
Which means since the graph is in hundreds, that's 3,600 laptops.
Got it. Moving right along to question 33. This one asks for the ratio of sales in March to June. March is 27, June is 54. Wait, do I have to find a common denominator or something for this?
No, and please don't even try. This is why you really have to trust your eyes before you trust your pencil. Just look at the relationship between 27 and 54.
Oh, wait, 27 times 2 is 54. It's exactly half.
Yes, so the ratio is instantly 1 to 2. The test makers put these specific numbers in there to reward candidates who take a 1-second pause to look at the relationship rather than blindly doing arithmetic.
That is a huge time saver. Okay, question 34. By how many laptops do the sales of the last 3 months exceed those of the first 3 months?
So we need to group them.
Right. The first 3 months, January, February, March, are 24, 30, and 27. That adds up to 81.
Oh.
The last 3, April, May, June, are 36, 45, and 54. That totals 135.
Now you just find the difference. 135 minus 81 gives you 54.
Nice and easy.
But a word of caution here, always check the units of your graph. The chart is labeled in hundreds, so the difference isn't 54 laptops.
Oh, right. It's 5,400, meaning 5,400 laptops, a vital detail to remember.
Absolutely.
Okay, wrapping up this line graph with question 35. It asks us to project July sales, assuming they will be 10% more than June's 5,400.
Calculating 10% should be like a mental reflex. You don't need a formula for this.
Really? Just eyeball it.
Yeah, just take the number 5,400 and drop the final 0, or slide the decimal point 1 spot to the left. 10% of 5,400 is just 540.
Oh, wow. Then I just add that 540 back to the original 5,400, giving us 940 laptops for July.
Exactly.
Okay, we've successfully tracked the products. Now, let's smoothly transition into the next 5 questions, 36 of 40, which move us from tracking laptops to tracking the workforce.
A shift in scenery.
Yes, we are presented with a data table showing male and female employees across 5 bank branches, V, W, X, Y, and Z.
The visual transition is important here. We've moved from a sweeping line graph to a very dense grid of numbers.
It's intimidating.
It is. Data tables trigger a sort of spreadsheet paralysis in a lot of test takers because there's so much irrelevant information screaming for your attention.
Yes, you really have to remind yourself to physically breathe. I like to call the solution tunnel vision. You just have to filter out the noise.
Show me how you do that for question 36.
Okay, Q36 asks for the total employees in branch X. I do not care about branch V, W, Y, or Z. I have to look at row X. 200 males, 120 females. 200 plus 120 is 320. Done.
That's the perfect approach. Question 37 asks for the ratio of male employees in branch V to female employees in branch Z.
Okay, tunnel vision again. Branch V males, 120. Right. Branch Z females, 100. So the ratio is 120 to 100. But that's not going to be the multiple choice answer, is it?
No, it will definitely be simplified. And the mechanism for simplifying a ratio is just stripping away the scale to find the core relationship.
So drop the zeros.
Yep. Both end in 0, so divide by 10. 120 to 100 becomes 12 to 10. Both are even, so cut them in half, 6 to 5.
Beautiful. Now, question 38 is where people might actually freeze. Female employees form what % of the total employees in branch W?
Okay, let's break it down.
Branch W has 150 males and 90 females, so the total workforce there is 240. The female count is 90, so we have 90 out of 240. How on earth do you turn that into a percentage without a calculator?
Well, you don't try to divide 90 by 240 directly. That's a nightmare. You simplify the fraction first. Okay.
Drop the zeros, and 90 over 240 becomes 9 over 24. Divide both of those by 3, and you get 3 over 8.
Wait, I remember learning fraction conversions. 1/8 is 12.5%.
Exactly. So if 1/8 is 12.5%, then 3/8 is just 3 times that amount. 12.5 times 3 translates beautifully to 37.5%.
That is such a powerful tool.
It really is. Memorizing those basic fraction to percentage conversions like eighths, sixths, and ninths, it just gives you an incredible advantage.
Okay, question 39 wants the average number of male employees per branch. This requires going down the entire male column. 120, 150, 200, 90, and 140.
Let's sum those up.
I add those up and hit 700. Since there are 5 branches, 700 divided by 5 is 140.
Good. And finally, question 40 asks for the difference between the total number of male employees and the total number of female employees across all branches.
Oh, this is a great efficiency check. We literally just calculated the total males as 700, so I don't need to do that again.
Exactly. Don't redo work. I just need to sum the female column. 80, 90, 120, 60, and 100. That gives me 450. So 700 males minus 450 females leaves a difference of 250.
Perfect. You let the work you already did save you time on the next step.
So we've extracted the story from the data tables. Now for questions 41 to 45, we're shifting gears from analyzing given data to hunting for answers hidden inside algebra. We are entering the territory of quadratic inequalities.
Yeah, this section consistently terrifies people.
I can see why.
You're given an equation for x, an equation for y. You have to find the possible roots for both and then declare how x relates to y.
Let's just dive right into question 41. The x equation is x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals 0. My brain immediately goes into panic mode. I mean, I haven't used the quadratic formula since high school.
And that panic is exactly what they are banking on. But take a breath. You do not need the full, messy quadratic formula here.
Thank goodness.
You just need to break the number 20 apart. Look at the end of the equation, it's a positive 20. Look at the middle, it's a negative 9. You need 2 numbers that multiply to make positive 20, but when you add them together, they make negative 9.
Okay, let me think. So negative 4 and negative 5. They multiply to 20 and add a negative 9. So the roots for x are positive 4 and positive 5.
Exactly. The y equation is y squared minus 11y plus 30 equals 0. Same exact logic. What multiplies to 30 and adds to negative 11?
Negative 5 and negative 6. So the roots for y are 5 and 6. Okay, so x can be 4 or 5, and y can be 5 or 6. How do I state the relationship?
You compare every possible x to every possible y.
Right.
4 is less than 5 and less than 6. 5 is equal to 5 and less than 6. Therefore, x is always either less than or equal to y.
That makes total sense. Now, you mentioned earlier there are shortcuts based on the positive and negative signs in the equation. Let's apply that to question 42.
Go for it.
The x equation is x squared minus 15x plus 56 equals 0. The roots turn out to be 7 and 8. The y equation is y squared minus 9y plus 18 equals 0. The roots are 3 and 6.
Notice the sign pattern there. A negative middle term and a positive final term means both your roots will always be positive.
Okay.
Here, both x roots 7 and 8 are strictly larger than both y roots, which are 3 and 6, so x is strictly greater than y.
Let's look at a different sign pattern for question 43. X squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Here, everything is positive, so the roots have to be negative, right?
Correct. 2 numbers that multiply to positive 10 and add to positive 7 are 2 and 5, so the actual roots are negative 2 and negative 5.
The y equation is y squared minus 3y minus 4 equals 0. Here, the final term is negative.
Which means one root must be positive and one must be negative. To multiply to negative 4 and add to negative 3, you use negative 4 and positive 1.
So the roots flip to positive 4 and negative 1.
Exactly. Since both of our x values are negative, they are entirely smaller than the y values of 4 and negative 1. Thus, x is less than y.
Okay, question 44. X squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 0.
That is a perfect square. It factors to x minus 5 squared, so x only has one root, which is 5.
Gotcha. The y equation is y squared minus 8, y plus 15 equals 0. Roots are 3 and 5. So if x is exactly 5 and y is either 3 or 5, well, x is greater than 3 and equal to 5. So x is greater than or equal to y.
You've got it.
The last one in this algebra set, question 45, is tricky. X squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. The roots are 4 and negative 2.
Okay.
The y equation is y squared minus 4y plus 3 equals 0. The roots are 1 and 3, so x spans from -2 all the way up to 4. And y is just sitting in the middle at 1 and 3.
This is a vital rule to remember. When the ranges overlap like this, chaos ensues.
What do you mean?
Well, x could be 4, which is bigger than y's maximum of 3, but x could also be -2, which is smaller than y's minimum of 1. Because x can logically be both bigger and smaller, depending on the day, no definitive mathematical relation can be established. That is your actual answer.
Fascinating. Just no relation. Okay, we are shaking off the rigid rules of algebra and moving into the next 5 questions, 46 through 50, the missing number series.
These can be fun.
I want to use a metaphor here. Think of a number series like the gears in a clock. You aren't just looking at the individual numbers. You're trying to understand the ratio of the gears turning behind the scenes to produce those numbers.
That is a highly functional way to look at it. You are diagnosing the underlying mechanism of growth or decay.
Let's write question 46. The sequence is 4, 9, 19, 39, 79, and we need the next number. Let me look at the gears. From 4 to 9, if I multiply 4 by 2, I get 8, and add 1, that's 9.
Let's see if that gear ratio holds up.
Okay, 9 times 2 is 18, plus 1 is 19. It works. 19 times 2 is 38, plus 1 is 39. The mechanism is literally multiply by 2, add 1.
Exactly. So to find the final number, apply the mechanism to 79. 79 times 2 is 158. Add 1, and you arrive at 159.
Simple enough. Question 47, the sequence is 5, 6, 14, 45, 184. The jumps are getting violently large.
Yeah, when a sequence escalates that quickly, the multiplier itself is usually growing. Let's look at the first jump, 5 to 6. That could be times 1 plus 1.
And 6 to 14, that's times 2 plus 2. 14 to 45 is times 3, which is 42 plus 3. Oh, I see the gears turning. The mechanism is escalating times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus 2 times 3 plus 3.
Which means the jump from 45 to 184 was times 4 plus 4, and the jump to our missing number must be times 5 plus 5.
Okay, 184 times 5 is 920. Add 5, and the answer is 925.
Spot on.
Question 48 is a much gentler series. 3, 4, 6, 10, 18. I'm going to look at the simple differences between them. The gaps are 1, then 2, then 4, then 8. The gaps themselves are doubling.
Precisely. The differences are powers of 2, so the next gap must be 16. Add 16 to 18, and you get 34.
Awesome. Next, question 49, we have a declining series, 196, 87, 71, 46. Let's look at the drops. It drops by 4, then 9, then 16, then 25. Wait, 4, 9, 16, 25. Those are perfect squares.
Yes, they are. 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared.
Which tells you exactly what the next drop has to be. 6 squared, which is 36. So 46 minus 36 leaves you with a final answer of 10.
So it's just about recognizing patterns.
But then look at question 50. It looks absolutely chaotic. 8, 4, 4, 6, 12. It drops, stays flat, rises a little, then rises sharply. It feels like there is zero logic.
Whenever you see a sequence that dips, flats, and then rises, your brain should immediately scream fractional multipliers.
Really?
Yes. Watch what happens if we use decimals. 8 multiplied by 0.5 is 4.
Oh, then 4 multiplied by 1 is 4. 4 multiplied by 1.5 is 6. 6 multiplied by 2 is 12. The multiplier is stepping up by halves.
Exactly. 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2. So the next step is multiplying by 2.5.
12 times 2.5 is 30. That is incredibly satisfying when you finally see the hidden mechanism.
It's all about recognizing the fingerprints of different mathematical patterns.
Let's carry that logic into the next 5 questions, 51 through 55, which cover simplification and approximation. This is pure calculation. But again, the exam isn't testing raw computational brute force. It's testing your ability to simplify. Question 51 asks for 65% of 480 plus 28% of 350. Doing that linearly sounds exhausting.
So don't do it linearly. Break the percentages into easily digestible chunks. 65% is really just 50% plus 10% plus 5%.
Oh, that's smart.
50% of 480 is half, so 240. 10% is 48. 5% is half of that, so 24. Add 240, 48, and 24 together, and you have 312.
That is so much cleaner.
Yeah.
For the second part, 28% of 350, could I treat that as 30% minus 2%?
Absolutely, you can. 30% of 350 is 105. 2% is 7. 105 minus 7 is 98. Add that to your 312, and you have a clean final answer of 410.
Man, question 52, though. It features the cube root of 2744 multiplied by 15 minus 8 squared. Seeing a cube root of a 4-digit number immediately makes my heart rate spike.
Which is exactly why part of your preparation must be rote memorization of cubes up to 15. The test makers just expect you to know them.
Really?
Yeah. The cube root of 2744 is exactly 14. Once you pull that from memory, the fear just vanishes.
Okay, so the problem becomes 14 times 15, which is 210, minus 8 squared, which is 64. 210 minus 64 leaves 146.
Exactly. Preparation removes the panic.
Question 53. 3/8 of 1440 minus 2/9 of 1080.
The golden rule of fractions in testing is to divide before you multiply to keep the numbers small.
Okay, so 1440 divided by 8 is a 180. Multiply that by 3 to get 540. For the second half, 1080 divided by 9 is 120. Multiply by 2 to get 240.
And then?
540 minus 240 is 300.
Nice.
Now, question 54 introduces terrifying decimals. 79.98% of 449.999 minus 39.99% of 199.98. Do I need to start rounding to the second decimal place here?
Please no, this question is explicitly testing your confidence in approximation. The decimals are literally just a distraction. Treat this as exactly 80% of 450 minus 40% of 200.
80% of 450 is just 360, 40% of 200 is 80. So 360 minus 80, the answer is 280. They really are just trying to waste my time with those decimals.
Yes, they are. And question 55 is another classic trap. 23 squared minus 17 squared plus 119.
See, my instinct is to grab my pencil and do the heavy lifting to figure out what 23 times 23 is and then what 17 times 17 is.
But look at it through the lens of foundational algebra. You're looking at the difference of two squares, a squared minus b squared.
Right.
The formula for that is simply a plus b multiplied by a minus b.
Oh, my goodness. So a is 23 and b is 17. 23 plus 17 is 40. 23 minus 17 is 6. I just need to multiply 40 times 6. That's 240. That took 2 seconds.
Yep. Add the lingering 119, and your answer is 359. You worked smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's deeply satisfying. Okay, we have reached the final 10 questions of the section. This is where we apply all these calculation skills to arithmetic word problems. And let me tell you, question 56 goes right back to the cognitive trap we discussed at the beginning of this deep dive.
Oh, let's hear it.
A car covers 240 kilometers at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. It returns over that exact same distance at 40 kilometers per hour. What is its average speed? Now, my intuition screams 60 plus 40 is 100. Divide by 2, the average speed is 50.
And that is the most common trap on the exam. It feels right, but it totally ignores the mechanism of time.
How so?
You can't just average the two speeds because the car spent significantly more time traveling at the slower speed, which drags the true average down. For equal distances, you must use the specific harmonic mean formula, which is 2 times speed, 1 times speed 2, all divided by the sum of the speeds.
Okay, let's run the formula. 2 times 60 times 40, and it's 4,800. Divided by 60 plus 40, which is 100. 4,800 divided by 100 is 48 kilometers per hour, not 50. Wow. Intuition will absolutely betray you.
It really will. Question 57 is more straightforward, though. Simple interest. The principal is 7,500, the rate is 8%, the time is 3 years. What's the interest?
The mechanism here is just the PRT formula. Principal times rate times time, divided by 100. So 7,500 times 8 times 3 divided by 100 gives 1,800.
Perfect. Question 58 tests time and work logic. If 12 men can complete a piece of work in 15 days, how many days will it take for 18 men to do the same work?
To me, this just feels abstract. How do I anchor it?
By calculating the total energy required to finish the job. Think of it in terms of man days. 12 men working for 15 days equals 180 total man days of effort.
Okay, I see.
That is the size of the job. If you now assign 18 men to tackle that 180 effort job, you just divide 180 by 18. It will take them 10 days.
Framing it as total energy makes it so logical. Next up, question 59. Two numbers are in a ratio of 4 to 7. If each is increased by 6, the new ratio becomes 2 to 3. Find the larger number.
This is purely a translation problem. You translate the English into algebra. Let the numbers be 4x and 7x. Add 6 to both. So you have the fraction 4x plus 6 over 7x plus 6, and you set that equal to 2 over 3.
Yeah, then cross multiply. 3 times 4x plus 6 is 12x plus 3. The larger number was 7x, so 7 times 3 is 21.
And if you solve that,
I get 2x equals 6, which means x is 3. The larger number was 7x, so 7 times 3 is 21.
Exactly. Now, question 60 brings in permutations. In how many different ways can the letters of the word banker be arranged?
Let me look at that. Banker. B-A-N-K-E-R. That's 6 letters, and none of them repeat.
Right. Since they are all distinct, you just calculate 6 factorial. 6 times 5 times 4 times 2 times 2 times 1.
Which equals 720 different arrangements.
Exactly right.
We're in the home stretch. The final 5 questions, 61 to 65.
Yeah.
And question 61 is exactly the trap we opened the show with. The question asks for a single discount equivalent to 2 successive discounts of 20% and 10%.
And as we established, it is definitely not 30%.
Yeah.
Because the second discount applies to a shrinking baseline. Let's prove it with math. Assume the starting price is 100.
Okay, a 20% discount drops that 100 down to 80.
Now apply the 10% discount. But you don't apply it to 100. You apply it to the new price of 80. 10% of 80 is 8. So you subtract 8 from 80, leaving you with a final price of 72.
The price went from 100 to 72. That is a total discount of 28%.
Which is incredibly deceptive in the real world, but mathematically undeniable.
Definitely. Question 62. A person spends 85% of his monthly income and manages to save $4,500. Find the total monthly income.
You reverse engineer this based on the data you have. You have the savings amount, so find the savings percentage. If he spends 85%, he must be saving the remaining 15%.
So 15% of his total income equals $4,500. To find the total, I just divide $4,500 by 0.15, which gives a total monthly income of $30,000.
Question 63 is about averages again. The average age of 24 students is 15 years. When the teacher's age is included, the average for all 25 people becomes 16 years. How old is the teacher?
Again, I need to look at the total weight, right? 25 people with an average age of 16 means their combined total age is 25 times 16, which is 400 years.
Correct. Now look at the students alone. 24 students with an average age of 15 means a combined total age of 360 years.
So if the total with the teacher is 400, the total without the teacher is 360. The difference is 40. The teacher is 40 years old.
Just 2 questions left. Question 64 covers mensuration. The perimeter of a rectangle is 76 centimeters and its length is 24 centimeters. Find its area.
What's the mechanism here? I know a rectangle has 2 equal lengths and 2 equal breadths. The 2 lengths are 24 each, so that's 48 centimeters of the perimeter accounted for.
Take that 48 away from the total perimeter of 76. You're left with 28 centimeters. That 28 must account for the 2 breadths, so divide by 2, and you find the breadth is 14 centimeters.
To find the area, I just multiply length times breadth, 24 times 14, which gives 336 square centimeters.
And finally, question 65, the very last hurdle, probability. 2 dice are thrown together. What is the probability that the sum of the numbers showing is exactly 9?
Okay, 2 6-sided dice. How do I make 9? I can roll a 3 and a 6, or a 4 and a 5, or a 5 and a 4, or a 6 and a 3. That's 4 specific ways to get a 9.
Those are your favorable outcomes. Now, how many total possible outcomes are there when rolling 2 6-sided dice?
6 times 6 is 36.
Right. So you have 4 favorable outcomes out of 36 total possibilities. Simplify the fraction, 4 over 36, and you get 19.
And just like that, it is done. We successfully navigated an entire quantitative aptitude section, 35 questions, sequentially, without missing a beat and without falling into the traps. If you stayed with us through all of that, you have incredible stamina.
Truly. Standardized testing at this level is a mental marathon. And if I can leave you with a broader perspective to mull over today, beyond just memorizing squares or knowing the formula for average speed, testing is actually a profound exercise in emotional regulation.
That makes a lot of sense.
When you see a terrifying quadratic equation or a deceptive compound discount, your fight or flight response kicks in. Your intuition tries to hijack you. Mathematics asks you to quiet that anxiety, ignore the instinct, take the easy way out, and let methodical logic guide you step by step.
It really is about controlling your own psychology as much as it is about knowing the math.
It raises an important question for your life outside the exam room. How might treating difficult, chaotic situations in your daily life, like a math problem with a definite mechanism, change how you approach stress?
That is something to genuinely think about. You don't have to look at this exam or any high-pressure situation like an impenetrable wall. It's just a puzzle, a clock with gears waiting to be understood. Thank you for studying with us today. Carry this calm, methodical confidence into the rest of your prep and ultimately into the exam room. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
You know, when you sit down for a major exam, there is this almost physical weight in the room.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the clock is ticking, the paper is just staring back at you. And suddenly, a massive block of text makes your mind just want to, scramble.
Right.
It is like standing at the base of a sheer cliff, looking straight up and thinking, there is absolutely no way I can climb that.
It is a very real, very human reaction. I mean, when that anxiety takes over, we completely forget that we don't actually have to leap to the top of the cliff in a single bound.
Yeah.
We just need to find the very next handhold, you know? Reasoning isn't about innate genius or some magical intuition. It is just a process of untangling knots. If you stay calm, take a breath, and follow the thread, the puzzle naturally solves itself.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are doing in this deep dive. Today, we are taking on a beast, the 35-question reasoning ability section of the IBPS CRP POMT 2026 Model Paper 03.
A heavy lift for sure, but totally doable.
Right. We are walking through this entire block, starting at question 66 and going strictly sequential straight through to question 100. But we aren't just going to read you an answer key.
No, definitely not.
We are going to build those analytical muscles together. We'll show you exactly how to spot the traps, how to use the shortcuts, and how to think like the people who actually wrote the test.
I love that.
So if you are preparing for this, or even if you just want to sharpen your mind, know this, you are in good hands today. No stress, just step-by-step logic.
That is the perfect mindset to have. So we are going to start our mental workout by building some foundational spatial awareness.
Okay.
The very first challenge they throw at us, spanning questions 66 through 70, is a parallel row seating arrangement.
Right, let's unpack this scenario. We have 10 people sitting in 2 parallel rows. In row 1, we have P, Q, R, S, and T, and they are all facing south. In row 2, we have A, B, C, D, and E, and they are facing north. The crucial detail here is that everyone in row 2 directly faces someone in row 1.
Right. Now, before we even look at the specific clues, let us talk strategy.
Okay.
The biggest trap here is the left-right inversion. When you are looking at the people facing north, their left and right match your natural left and right, but for the people facing south, it's completely flipped.
You know, this is exactly like seating guests at a formal banquet table where certain VIPs just must make eye contact across the table.
Yes.
But you have to remember that if I'm facing south, my right arm is actually reaching toward the west side of the room. It is a total mirror image.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. So you scan the clues for an anchor point, something concrete. The puzzle tells us A sits at an extreme end and faces R. That is a massive piece of the foundation.
Okay, wow, yeah.
It also tells us E sits immediately right of B, and there is only one person between A and B.
So if I try to map that out, if A is at an extreme end and there is one person between A and B, A has to be on the far left, the west end of the north-facing row. Because if A was on the far right, you could put anyone between A and B without them just falling off the table.
Exactly. You just found the domino that knocks the rest down. Once you piece those anchor points together with the remaining clues, like D facing P, Q facing E, and S sitting at an extreme end, the layout completely locks into place.
Right.
From west to east, the north-facing row sits as A, D, B, E, C. And directly across from them, the south-facing row sits as R, P, T, Q, S.
Okay, and once you take the time to build that banquet table properly, the next 5 tasks on the exam are just effortlessly reading your own map.
They really are.
So for question 66, they want to know who faces T. Well, looking at our map, T is in the middle of the south row, and directly across from T is B.
Precisely. Then for 67, they ask who sits second to the right of D. Since D is facing north, we just use our natural right. We skip over B and land squarely on E.
Got it. Moving to 68, they want the person immediately to the right of S. Now, S is facing south, so their right is actually towards the west side of our map.
Exactly. You have to remember that inversion.
Right, so the person immediately to their right is Q.
Notice how fast this goes when the foundation is solid. Next, for question 69, they test your ability to quickly span a gap, asking for the number of persons sitting between P and S in row 1.
So looking at R, P, T, Q, S, we clearly see 2 people, T and Q, sitting in that gap.
Yep. And to wrap up this first block with question 70, they throw an odd pair-out question at us.
Oh, I see. The options are A, R, C, P, B, T, E, Q, and D, P.
What do you see there?
Well, if I look at the map, A faces R, B faces T, E faces Q, and D faces P. They're all facing couples. But C is sitting across from S, not P. So CP is the odd one out.
Beautifully reasoned. Now, from organizing physical space, the exam fluidly shifts to organizing time. The next block, questions 71 to 75, introduces 7 people born across 7 specific months.
January, March, April, June, July, September, and December.
Right.
So we just use visual diagrams for seating.
Yeah.
We have to use that exact same visual diagramming skill for this timeline, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I noticed something when looking at this puzzle. The very first clue says only one person was born before T. Because our months are strictly chronological, that isn't just a clue, it is the master key.
It really is.
It instantly locks T into the second chronological month on our list, which is March. It's the first domino that knocks down the rest of the puzzles, right?
It absolutely is. Finding that anchor is what separates a panicked test taker from a confident one. From there, you just follow the chain.
Right.
Exactly 2 persons were born between T and V was born in a 31-day month. That puts V in July. U was born immediately before V, so U is June.
Wait, how do you keep track of 31 versus 30 days under the pressure of a ticking clock? Like, I always panic and forget the rhyme.
Oh, use the old knuckle trick. Count the months on your knuckles and the spaces between them. Knuckles are 31 days, spaces are 30. It never fails.
Oh, wow, that's so simple.
Right. Using that, the clues tell us Z is in a 30-day month immediately after T, making Z April. W was before Z, so W takes the only earlier slot, January. And since the rules state Y wasn't born in December, Y has to take September, leaving X as our December baby.
So our completed timeline is WTZUVYX. Just like the seating chart, once the map is drawn, answering the questions is a breeze.
Let's run through them.
Okay, question 71 asks who was born in September. Checking our timeline, that is clearly Y.
Then for 72, they ask for U's birth month. Our timeline shows U right before V, which lands squarely in June.
Next, 73 wants to know how many people fall between Z and X. Looking from April to December, we have U in June, V in July, and Y in September. So 3 people.
Exactly. They follow that up in 74 by asking who is born immediately after V. V is July. The very next person on our list is Y in September.
And to finish the timeline block with question 75, they ask a slightly trickier question. How many persons born after V were born in months having 31 days?
You have to read carefully there.
Yeah, after July, we only have September, which has 30 days, and December, which has 31. So only one person, X, actually fits the bill.
Notice how the questions themselves aren't difficult. The real test is just your ability to calmly structure the initial data.
Right.
Now, for the next scenario, starting at 76, we return to spatial puzzles, but with a twist that intentionally induces panic. We have 8 people, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, sitting around a circular table, but they are all facing outward, away from the center.
Oh, I know this trap. My instinct is to completely freeze because all my practiced rules about circular seating just inverted.
Exactly, that's what they want.
But to visualize this, I imagine you and your friends are standing in a circle facing the walls of the room instead of the center. If you reach out your right hand, you're tracing the circle in a clockwise direction. Left becomes anti-clockwise.
That is a perfect way to ground it. Do not let the inverted rules intimidate you. Just consistently apply that wall-facing logic to the clues. K is third to the right of JL, is second to the right of J. N sits to the immediate left of L. If you map those out, patiently tracing the clockwise and anti-clockwise steps, you lock in a perfect clockwise sequence around the table J, N, L, K, Q, O, M, P.
Let's run the verifications. So question 76 asks, who sits second to the left of Q? Now, left is anti-clockwise, so we just step back 2 spaces from Q and we hit L.
Then 77 wants to know who sits diagonally opposite N. With an even number of 8 people, opposite is just a math shortcut. It just means dividing the table in half exactly 4 spaces away in either direction. Across from N sits O.
Okay, here's where I might make a mistake on 78. They ask how many persons sit between J and M when counted anti-clockwise from J.
Roll either way.
Well, my first instinct is to just count clockwise because it feels natural, which would give me N, L, K, Q, O, but I have to stop. Anti-clockwise from J means going left.
Yes.
So going left from J, I hit P and then immediately hit M. So there's just one person P between them.
That is a brilliant catch and exactly the kind of trap the exam writer set. You stayed focused. The next task, 79, asks who sits immediately to the right of P.
Right means clockwise.
Yep, which leads us tracing the circle straight back to the start with J.
And wrapping up the circle with question 80, we get another odd pair out, J, N, N, L, K, Q, O, M, M, J. Scanning the pairs. In all the others, the second person is sitting immediately clockwise of the first.
Right.
But immediately clockwise of M is P, not J. So MJ breaks the pattern.
Excellent. Now, dropping physical seating arrangements entirely, the next block of questions transitions us into pure, abstract, deductive logic using syllogisms.
Oh, I absolutely love these.
They're fun, but I highly recommend mentally drawing Venn diagrams for these categorical statements. Don't try to hold abstract logic entirely in your short-term memory.
Yeah, that gets messy fast.
Yeah.
Let's look at 81. The statements say, some cars are bikes, all bikes are trucks. The conclusions we have to test are I, some cars are trucks, and a tie. Some trucks are cars.
Picture the circles. The circle of bikes is entirely swallowed up inside the circle of trucks.
Okay.
The circle of cars overlaps with bikes. Since bikes are trapped entirely inside trucks, that overlap must also be inside the trucks circle.
Right.
So yes, some cars are indeed trucks. And logically, if some cars are trucks, naturally, the reverse is true. Some trucks are cars. Both conclusions, I and 2, definitively follow.
Okay, question 82. All papers are files. No file is a folder. Conclusion, I. No paper is a folder. Conclusion 2, some folders are files.
Visualize the paper circle entirely inside the file circle. Now, the file circle has an impenetrable, strict boundary, keeping it completely separate from the folder circle.
Okay, so it can't cross.
Exactly. Because paper is locked inside file, it can never cross that boundary to touch folder. Conclusion I definitely follows. Conclusion 2, however, directly contradicts our established impenetrable boundary, so it fails. Only I follows.
Now, here's where the logic gets really fascinating. Question 83 says, all doors are windows, some windows are walls. The conclusions to test are I. Some doors are walls. 2, no door is a wall.
This is a classic.
Wait, let's stop you there. If I draw this Venn diagram, the wall circle overlaps with windows, but I don't know for certain if it reaches far enough to touch the doors circle inside.
You don't.
So if we don't know for certain if doors are walls, why is the answer either or instead of just neither?
This raises a profoundly important question about how formal logic works, and honestly, it is a very common stumbling block.
Okay.
You are right that neither statement is guaranteed to be true based only on a single drawing. But a Venn diagram isn't a single photograph, it is a map of possibilities. Think about the physical laws of the universe. Either a door is a wall, or it is not a wall. There is no mystical third option.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because these two statements are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, one of them must be true in whatever reality exists. We don't know which one, but we know it has to be one of them. Hence, the elegant answer is either I or 2 follows.
That is wonderfully elegant. It is a complementary pair that just covers all of reality.
Got it.
Got it. Moving to the final syllogism, 84. Some pots are pans, some pans are lids. Conclusion I here, some pots are lids. Conclusion 2, some lids are pans.
2, some statements give us a chain, but no definitive bridge between the outer items, pots, and lids. The circles might overlap, or they might just form a straight line. So conclusion I is out, but some pans are lids effortlessly and universally flips to some lids are pans. Therefore, only 2 follows.
We are cruising now. The next hurdle shifts from words to math symbols for questions 85 to 87, but they test the exact same deductive muscles using inequalities.
They really do.
I like to think of inequalities like a corporate ladder. For 85, our statement is A is greater than or equal to B, which is greater than C, and C equals D, which is less than E. We need to evaluate if IA is greater than C and IAE is greater than C.
Your corporate ladder analogy is perfect here. Let's apply it. If the CEO, A, outranks or equals the manager, B, and the manager definitively outranks the intern, C, well, then the CEO absolutely outranks the intern.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even if A and B share power, they both sit above C. A is greater than C. Furthermore, since the intern C is on the exact same level as D, and D is outranked by E, then C must also be outranked by E, meaning E is greater than C. Both I and 2 definitively follow.
Okay, next inequality, 86. P is less than Q, which is less than or equal to R, and S is greater than R. Conclusion IS is greater than P. Conclusion IP is greater than or equal to R.
Tracing the corporate chain from P upwards to S, all the inequality signs point in the same direction, showing S is sitting securely at the very top of the hierarchy.
Right.
So S is greater than P. Conclusion I follows. However, that same chain clearly shows P is strictly less than R, so conclusion 2 is provably false. Only I follows.
And the final math logic puzzle, 87G equals H, which is greater than or equal to J, and J is less than or equal to L. Conclusion IG is greater than L. Conclusion IL is greater than or equal to G.
Similar to our doors and walls syllogism earlier, G and L both sit above J on the ladder, but we have no mathematical bridge to compare G and L directly to each other.
So they could be anywhere relative to each other.
Exactly, so neither conclusion is certain alone. But look closely at the options. G is either strictly greater than L, or it is less than or equal to L. Together, those two statements cover every mathematical possibility that exists. Just like before, this is an exhaustive either-or scenario.
Okay, from mathematical symbols, we bring it back to the human element with a block on blood relations. Question 88, we have coded relations.
These can be tricky.
The test tells us A plus B means A is the brother of B. A times B means A is the mother of B. We need to decode the string P times Q plus R to find how P relates to R.
With coded strings, always read them left to right like a sentence. P times Q translates to P is the mother of Q. The next part, Q plus R, translates to Q is the brother of R.
Yeah.
So if Q and R are siblings and P is Q's mother, then logically P is also the mother of R.
The next one, 89, is a classic descriptive puzzle. Introducing a woman, Ramesh says, she's the only daughter of my father's wife. How is the woman related to Ramesh?
How do you tackle this one?
Well, I always tell people, for questions like this, just insert yourself into this story. If I'm Ramesh and I say my father's wife,
Yeah.
I instantly know I'm just talking about my own mom. It removes the confusing vocabulary immediately.
That is a fantastic practical strategy. So if we rewrite the sentence using your trick, she is the only daughter of Ramesh's mother. Well, the daughter of your mother is your sister. It really is that straightforward when you humanize the logic instead of treating it like abstract algebra.
Let's apply that to the last family tree puzzle, 90. D is the son of E. E is the brother of F. F is the daughter of G. How is E related to G?
Let's build it up. If F is G's daughter and E is F's brother, then E is G's child as well. Now, here's a tiny trap.
Oh.
We know E is a child, but the question asks how E is related to G. Since we previously established E is a brother, we know E is definitively male. Therefore, E is not just a child, E is G's son.
Attention to detail is everything there. So we have mapped out family trees tracking human relationships. Next, for questions 91 to 93, we literally have to map out physical steps in the real world with direction sense.
Let's hit the road.
The first scenario, 91 Priya walks 4 kilometers west, turns left, which would be south, and walks 3 kilometers. What is the shortest distance between her final position and the office?
Whenever you see a straight walk followed by a 90-degree turn in these exams, your brain should immediately yell right-angled triangle.
Yes.
She walked legs of 4 kilometers and 3 kilometers. The shortest distance is the straight line connecting the start and end the hypotenuse.
So use Pythagoras.
Exactly. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 9 plus 16, which equals 25. The square root of 25 is 5. It is the classic 3, 4, 5 mathematical triplet. The answer is 5 kilometers.
Next up, 92. Amit walks 10 meters north, turns left and walks 5 meters, turns left again and walks 10 meters, and finally turns right and walks 5 meters. Where is he from the start? It sounds like a lot of wandering.
It sounds chaotic, but map his movements on a simple grid. He goes 10 meters north, then eventually turns and goes 10 meters south. Those two physical legs perfectly cancel each other out.
Right, he's back on the original latitude.
Yep. His remaining movements are 5 meters west and then another 5 meters west. Combining those, he ends up exactly 10 meters west of his starting point.
And to finish the directions with 93. At sunrise, Ravi faces a pole. If the shadow of the pole falls exactly to his right, which direction is he facing? I love this. Think of yourself as a human sundial for this one. At sunrise, the sun is predictably in the east.
Exactly, which means the physical light forces all shadows to stretch toward the west.
Okay.
If the shadow, which is pointing west, is exactly to Ravi's right side, the only physical way that anatomy works is if Ravi is looking dead south.
I love that. We are entering the home stretch now, 94 to 98. The final few questions shift away from deep deduction and focus heavily on rapid-fire observation and numerical sequences.
These require a different kind of focus.
First, they give us a massive chaotic alphanumeric string and ask how many letters in the arrangement are immediately followed by a symbol.
This is a pure exercise in focus under fatigue. Scanning the string, you aren't reading, you are pattern matching. Look specifically for letter then symbol.
Okay, let me scan.
Scanning. We find E followed by a $sign, M followed by a hash, W followed by an ampersand, and J followed by an asterisk. There are exactly 4 instances.
Next, 95 asks, which element is 5th to the left of the 16th element from the left end? Okay, my brain immediately wants to count 16 spaces into the string, put my finger on the page, and then count 5 spaces backward.
Stop. Don't visualize the string, and definitely don't count twice. Just do the math.
Really?
Yes, think of it as walking 16 steps forward, then 5 steps backward. Your net movement is just 11 steps. Left minus left equals subtraction. You're simply looking for the 11th element from the left end.
Oh, wow. That's so much faster.
It saves you 15 seconds, and on this exam, seconds are currency. Counting to 11 in the sequence gives us the number 9.
That is such a good tip. Left minus left equals subtract. Next, 96. If the first 10 elements of the arrangement are reversed, which element will be 8th from the left end?
Again, don't rewrite the string. Think logically. If we reverse a 10-element block, the item that is now in the 8th position from the left used to be in the 3rd position from the left in the original setup.
Oh, because 10 minus 8 plus 1?
Exactly. The original 3rd element was the letter E, so the answer is E.
Now we hit order and ranking for 97. In a class, Ajay's rank is 17th from the top and 24th from the bottom. How many students are there? Okay, 17 plus 24 is 41, so there are 41 students, right?
You fell for the classic trap.
Wait, I did.
You just counted Ajay as two different people. You counted him once when you counted down from the top, and you counted him a second time when you counted up from the bottom.
Oh.
The formula requires you to add the two ranks together and then subtract 1 to remove that double count. 17 plus 24 is 41, minus 1 gives us the true total, 40 students.
Oh, of course. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Let's try not to mess up the next one, 98. In a row of 35 children facing north, Ria is 10th from the left. Karan sits 4th to her right. What is Karan's position from the right end?
Walk it through. If Ria is 10th and Karan is 4 spots further right, Karan is sitting in the 14th chair from the left.
Okay.
To find his spot from the opposite side in a row of 35, we take the total, 35, subtract his left position, 14, and then crucially add 1 back in for the exact same reason we subtracted earlier to account for his actual physical chair.
So 35 minus 14 is 21, plus 1 is 22. Karan is 22nd from the right.
Perfect.
We have arrived at the grand finale, the final 2 questions. Question 99 has us crack linguistic codes. In a certain code, DEHHI is written as WVOSR. How is MMBAI written? Oh, I know this one.
Let's hear it.
It is the classic AZ mirror code.
Yeah.
Once you spot that D, which is the 4th letter from the start of the alphabet, maps to W, which is the 4th letter from the end of the alphabet. The vault door swings wide open.
It does. It is an alphabet reflection. E maps to V, L to O, and so on. Applying this exact mirror pattern to MMBAI, where M reflects to N, U reflects to F, B reflects to Y, A reflects to Z, and I reflects to R, you get the definitive sequence NF-NYZR.
And the final puzzle of the exam, question 100. Using the 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 8th letters of the word triangle, how many meaningful English words can be formed using each letter once? The letters are R, A, N, and E.
We just need to scramble the anagrams. Those 4 letters can easily form the word E-A-R-N, earn.
Yeah, and if we shuffle them again, they form N-E-A-R, near.
Exactly. Since the test simply asks us to classify the quantity, and we've confidently found at least 2, the answer is definitively more than 1.
And just like that, we reached the summit. You did it. We just successfully navigated 35 complex reasoning questions from parallel seating and circular tables to family trees and mirror codes without breaking a sweat.
You know, when you approach a test like this with consistency and calm step-by-step logic, there is no paper you cannot conquer.
Exactly.
The overwhelming weight of the exam room fades away the moment you realize it is not an impossible cliff. It is just a series of small, completely manageable steps.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a broader thought to ponder today. If you can apply this level of structured, cool-headed logic to abstract puzzles and outward-facing seating arrangements, imagine how these exact same analytical skills could untangle the complex problems in your own life or your future career in banking.
That is a great point.
How often do we let emotions or panic cloud our real-world decisions, when a simple syllogism or direction test approach would give us the clear, unambiguous answer? Keep looking for the next handhold. See you next time.